Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to embark on a journey like no other. Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast,
your go-to destination for a unique blend of recovery and discovery.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Mark. And in this podcast, we will endeavor to create a safe and uplifting space for our guests and listeners to share their stories with sincerity and a touch of humor.
Remember, we are not a Glum Lot. The Glum Lot Podcast is more than just a source of entertainment. It's a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest moments, recovery is possible. Every story we share carries the power to inspire positive change.
So buckle up, get ready to listen, and join us in discovering the strength that lies within every individual's journey. This is the Glum Lot Podcast, where humor meets hope. All right, Brett, we are on episode 93 of the Glum Lot Podcast.
93, we're getting to the century mark.
Indeed.
And I really hope we've got somebody that I really hope it'll be on there. But anyways, that's
for episode 100?
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
I know. That's just how excited I am.
That's good. And we'd like to remind our listeners to join our Facebook group, the Glum Lot Podcast, at Facebook. Or, and I should say, email us with your ideas, your potential guests,
feedback,
your comments
anything.
At the Glum Lot Podcast at gmail.com.
Awesome.
What's on your mind today, sir?
One thing that I like to do is, keep up with my sobriety every day and work towards that. And so just on the way over here, in fact, I was listening to a speaker on YouTube. And one of the things that really caught me, and he was a very dry individual, but this one caught me, where he remembered coming in, and he was, right before he came in, he was always saying, God, just give me the power to overcome this. Help me. Give me the power to make this, go away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first words that he heard on his first meeting were, you have to be powerless. Right? And
he's like, oh,
and he was like, what the hell is that? Right? I mean, it is weird, right? Because that's what we're all praying for and whatever when we're trying to get out of this horrible thing. Give me the power, the willpower to do it.
Yeah.
And yet you come in here and it's just another one of those opposite days in AA.
Yeah. It's just not possible.
Right.
I can't give you the power.
No.
There is one who has all power.
And
that's
one
what they
is
tell
God.
you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So you got to find that, and then you've got to surrender to it.
Yeah, but I never heard it put that way or in that situation. It was pretty cool because it is true. We are powerless over.
Self-will is so limited.
Yeah.
And we still think, well, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
I can, I don't need to ask for help. I don't need to do it a different way. I'm just going to, bash my way through this.
That's right. And in the process, bash myself.
Bash your head against the cement wall.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. There are a lot of things in AA that seem counterintuitive when you come in. There are. In fact, most of them, I think, seem counterintuitive.
Oh yeah.
Surrender to win.
That's the biggie.
Well, how the fuck am I going to surrender and win?
Yeah, don't make any big decisions in your first 90 days, right? And then, meanwhile, step 3 exists. It's just crazy.
Wait a minute, you just said made a decision. What?
Oh, yeah.
Don't think, don't drink, go to meetings. And then you're looking at the front table and it says think. You're like, what kind of the head game are they playing, man?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
But, this whole whole thing of coming in and people say, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
Sobriety is literally changing your mind.
And that is the definition of a...
Change your mind.
Yeah.
And how is that done? Well, I don't do it. We do it.
Yeah.
We with the help of a higher power. And then, of course, it doesn't seem like it's going to work. And then it starts working. You're like, oh, my God. This is working.
Hopefully, yeah.
And nobody can tell you and make you believe it's working. You literally have to experience it.
An experience, absolutely.
Yeah, it is. So stick around long enough.
That's right.
For the miracle to happen.
So that's the exciting part. You don't have to have the power to do it.
That's right.
Beautiful thing.
So
hey, we got a guest today.
Did you say new?
Yeah, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, he's not new.
But I'm not going to take myself seriously. I just made a mistake.
Oh, Rule 62.
Oh, right.
Nice.
We just talked about that. It kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
But, we've got a great guest today. It was somebody that has been on the podcast before.
Episode 14, Dave A.
Yeah, Dave
Many
A.
moons ago.
Yeah, he's got a good story for us today. You better listen up. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So without further delay, let's welcome Dave.
Dave.
Welcome again to the Glum Lot Podcast, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And we're going to recap your sobriety date for the listeners.
So St. Patrick's Day of 2013.
Oh, what was the date that St. Patrick's Day?
That's the 17th?
I have
March
no
17th?
idea. Is it?
Yeah, I believe it's either the 17th or the 19th. I know it's an odd number because I'm an odd duck.
There you go.
Oh,
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
So you're back in the podcast. Brett said, hey, I'd like to have Dave A on again. And I said, oh, what's the idea behind it? And Brett?
Yeah,
Explain.
there was a circumstance, and obviously I'm going to let Dave talk about it. But we talk about this topic all the time, but I thought it would be really important for everybody, all of our listeners, to hear about it from the person that experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave had come on with us before. He had his son in here, and that was a really unique experience in the first place because his son didn't know a lot about these things.
Right.
And that was a really cool situation to hear how he handled that. But it was a great story. And, I think something might have changed maybe a little bit since that time, maybe a little earlier. But we're going to get into that. Let's
Yeah, and I would suggest to the listener, if you want to find out what happened with Dave, from the get-go, go back and listen to 14.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't listen to this without listening to 14 because the experience, strength, and hope is here on its own. So
Absolutely.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
So why don't you get us, just tee it right off, Dave.
Thank
Get
you,
right
gentlemen.
into
It's
it.
always good to be back.
Yes.
So I had a pretty bad experience, fortunately an eye-opening experience about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Going through a little bit of stuff in my life.
How much time sober did you have at that point?
Just over 12 years.
Okay.
So
12 years. Okay,
Yep.
that's good.
Yeah.
We talked about this last episode.
Yep.
Yep.
So what was going on before this happened?
So looking back with clear eyes, for roughly the last year and a half to 2 years, I started getting away from the things that got me to where I was in sobriety.
Okay.
I started whittling down almost to the bare minimum, maybe one meeting a week, maybe two max. The things that my sobriety gave me, I started putting in front of my sobriety. My kid has a game. I have this. I need to go to work. I need to do lawn. All these things that I have been afforded in life to be able to do became more important than what I needed to do to stay sober.
Yeah, and you know what? If you don't want to go to a meeting, you can find an excuse.
Oh, it's pretty
you
easy.
Always can.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do.
It is. And I've gotten to the point where I've done that.
Oh, yeah.
And then I've said to myself, you're doing it, get your ass to the meeting. And I go.
I've actually had to invest in a shock collar. So it is AI-based, and as soon as it hears or senses my thoughts,
Yes.
thanks to Elon, he's got that.
Yeah, right. As soon as your mind says, I
AA
should go
approved.
to a meeting, but...
I learn how to do gymnastics, and then I go.
Okay.
Because it makes me do flips.
So, yeah, you're at this point in your sobriety. You've got 12 years under your belt. You're feeling pretty confident, probably, right?
Absolutely.
And you're thinking, I could probably do with less meetings. And even though you aren't consciously thinking that, the actions speak for themselves.
And then you were sponsoring people as well,
Correct.
right, in the past, and got a lot out of that.
And got away from sponsorship and got away from talking to my sponsor, got away from even just talking to people outside of the meetings in the program. Just a daily check-in with people, just saying, hey, how are you doing? How's this? The things that I had done all along, I completely
Those
shut
are the
down.
things that we had learned.
Little by
Right.
little.
Yeah.
Probably almost imperceptibly to yourself, right?
Until I started looking back.
Yeah.
After I had a huge scare and started looking back.
So, what happened?
So I can back you up just a little bit into December. And I know this is some other stuff outside, but this plays into where my mindset was. I started going through some medical and physical things, which are not leading me down a good direction. But it starts to play on my mind, and I start to think, okay, well, what the heck's this all worth if this is going to be the outcome? So, I started pulling back a little bit more and focusing, trying to do little things to help with my health, but not my mental health, not my sobriety, those types of things. And then stupid me gets into what I created in my head.
No.
Now let's say this out loud. What I created in my head, where I became the director when somebody had no idea what they were. playing in my life. I went into it with all good intentions of friendship and things like that. And all of a sudden I started creating this scenario in my head. When I voiced what I was feeling, I was rebuffed, so to speak.
So the expectations.
The expectations were set very high in my mind. And when those expectations weren't met by the person that I was setting into that role that had no idea they were playing that role, really was a big gut punch.
Yes, because they didn't respond in the way that you thought based on everything you had in your head.
Not that I thought, but that I wanted.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
And probably believed was going to happen.
I didn't get what I want.
Yeah,
now
boy.
I want to take my toys and go home.
We are guilty of that, right? And boy, what follows from that is
Exactly.
Self-pity is a bad one. Then maybe resentment against the person, and then you beat yourself up, and oh my God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just want to, if I could, real quick, I just wanted to share a passage that's become very important to me out of the big book.
I love this.
Share.
Now, so it's on page 133 and it's the first full sentence. We are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. That's what I wanted too.
Of course.
Yeah. We cannot subscribe to the belief that this life is a vale of tears, though it once was just that for many of us. But it is clear that we made our own misery. God didn't do it. Now, this is where it comes in big for me. Avoid, then, the deliberate manufacture of misery.
Oh, my God.
But if trouble comes, cheerfully capitalize it as an opportunity to demonstrate his omnipotence.
Oof. Yeah, and I know, because I've been there too, I know that when you say, don't make it your own manufacturer, when you're doing it, I'm manufacturing happiness is what I'm doing.
In your mind, yeah.
Yes, and
happiness
you are
for me.
Totally lying to yourself, thinking this has to happen the way I want it to, and then I'll be happy.
I'm even putting into my prayers for myself, which we're taught not to do.
Right.
And I would couch it with, God, please show me the way. Please give me the words to say.
To be able to.
To be able to have my
way.
To have it the way I wanted it.
Right. Jeez, that's tough.
So
I'm assuming this didn't go well.
So this was on a Wednesday about 2 months ago. Real bad gut punch. Just devastated me.
You fell victim to yourself.
Yes.
Which sucks.
And again, created my own misery, which I know I did. So I had been on the phone with my daughter. I said, hey, I've got to run in here to use the bathroom at a convenience store. Hang up with her. I said, I'll call you back. And I'm still devastated. I go in, I use the bathroom. And before I know it, I have circumnavigated probably 120 feet of the store, going between aisles and everything. I'd been in the bathroom. All of a sudden, I was woken up with my hand on the cooler of the beer.
No shit.
And I'm looking right at it, trying to decide what I want to have to drink. What's the sweetest? What's the stuff that's not going to smell so nobody smells it on me? How am I going to hide this from my kids? And I always used to say, in my own way, that I got this. What I would say is, if I were to ever drink again, something bad's going to happen. I'm going to have to drive somewhere. I'm going to have to make the decision to buy it. I'm going to have to buy it. I'm going to have to go out to my car and drink it. I'm going to have to hide it from everybody. That's 6 or 7 steps that in my mind I was saying, I got this.
Yeah.
I will tell you I had all of 5 seconds.
Yeah, and it was told to me that there will come a time, or maybe several times, when the only thing standing between you and a drink is your higher power. And, what you were seeking, in my, observation, is relief. Mm-hmm. I want relief from the way I feel. I don't want to feel this way. I'm not comfortable in my own skin. I don't like this. And, the old behavior was take a drink and you don't feel like that. Take a drink and you do get relief.
Just another punch from the world at me, right? And so how else better to just show the world?
So what happened in that 5 seconds?
In that 5 seconds. Now, to back up about a week again, to do full of the story, I had realized I had no connection with my higher power. I wasn't feeling anything. The prayers I was saying was coming from my head and not from my heart. I felt no connection, no nothing, to the point where I called my pastor and talked to my pastor for an hour and a half, multiple times, to say, what am I doing here? I felt nothing. And when I was staying in front of that beer cooler, I truly believe that was my higher power's way of slapping me back into reality. That I don't remember walking from the restroom to the cooler, and I had 5 seconds where I woke up where my hand was on that cooler door, and I literally broke down into tears.
Mm-hmm.
And I went right out to my car, and I started dialing numbers.
Yeah.
I will tell you this, that I talked to more alcoholics in that next 24 to 48 hours on the phone, voice, text, whatever you want to call it, outside of meetings than I had in the previous 12 years combined. I have the numbers in my phone. I just never called them. I started losing my connections. And all of a sudden, when I'm asking my higher power to give me a connection, to show me the way, I was slapped really hard in the back of the head and woken up saying, hey, dummy, I'm right here with you. Now pay attention and listen to what I'm showing you.
Right. Your higher power taught you a lesson, a
Yes,
hard lesson.
A very hard lesson.
What was your internal feelings at that point? Were you scared? Scared of drinking again?
There were many feelings going on. I still had some anger towards God because I didn't get what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
My fear of drinking overrode everything. And it was just that emptiness. But knowing full well, we've heard it many times, I can't have, a head full of AA and a belly full of alcohol.
Right.
They don't mix.
They don't.
Thank goodness I had the head full of AA.
Yeah, that fear is a healthy fear.
It's a very healthy fear. We'll go to meetings and somebody will
We
say...
have dreams about it.
Yes.
And we wake up in fear.
We go to meetings, and one of the things I've learned is when somebody brings up a topic of fear, well, not everything has to be a bad fear. This was a good fear to me.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I hold on to was the darkest, most desperate I've ever felt in my life was the last time I came back. Because I felt like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. And I can feel that in my gut. I can literally feel it in my gut, and I never want to lose that. I always want to hold on to that feeling. Because if I'm confronted with alcohol, and like you were, I want to feel that in my gut, because it's going to do the same thing to me. It's going to slap me in the face and say, you can go right back there within the next 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. All you got to do is guzzle some booze. You'll be right back there. So, that healthy fear is... Your higher power awoken the frickin' awoken the kundalini in you.
And the amazing thing is I have at least enough connections. And I'll tell you this, I texted Brett that day.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, are you going to this particular meeting? And he said, no, I've got other things going on tonight. And about 3 minutes later, my phone rings. What's going on?
Okay, so
because I wanted somebody with me to go back in to be there at this, because I knew this was a meeting I needed to go to. But it also taught me that we are very fortunate in the area we live in with the amount of meetings that we had. Mm-hmm. I came up with every excuse of why not to go to meetings, why not to go to certain meetings. I would say, well, I can't go to a 7:30 p.m. meeting or an 8 o'clock meeting. That keeps me out too late. Well, what I have started doing is going to 7:30 and 8 o'clock meetings because all the stuff my sobriety gave me, I can still take care of. I can take care of my kids. I can take care of my house. I can take care of my job. And then I can go take care of my sobriety.
And yourself. Yeah.
And myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's alarming to some people. To me sometimes, too, when somebody says, I had 12 years and I went out. I had 20 years and I went out. My sponsor, in fact, has done it a couple times where he had long-term sobriety, went out. The first time he did it, he called me. He had actually moved. He called me up and said, "I'm just calling you to let you know that this can happen." And he explained exactly what happened. It was something similar to yours, where he was around booze a million times and was not tempted. But this one time, he was tempted, and it was just a glass of wine, a simple glass of wine with some people he was doing business with. And he got a case of I'll be fine. It'll be different. And then 2 weeks later, his wife was calling his sponsor up here and saying, you got to come down and help him. It took 2 weeks for this guy's world to crumble.
Yeah,
it's
it.
Fucking crazy,
Yeah.
And to stand on the edge like that, what a wake-up call.
It really was. And it just, as I say, I started to get away from everything and everybody. And, and then from that point, I talked to another gentleman in the program. And he said, okay, make sure you're reading 60 to 63 every day, 80 to 84. And I love this part of the story. So I start reading it religiously every day, doing the daily reflections. Yep. I started meditating. I'd never meditated before.
What? No way.
I downloaded a guided meditation app.
Fantastic.
And they are phenomenal. This is something I've never done before. What a great way. And fortunately, the other day, I had my 22-year-old son come down when I was getting ready to meditate. I said, you want to meditate with me?
Ah.
He goes, sure. We sat down. He goes, that's phenomenal, Dad. I love that. So after this scare, I started reading the book again, getting back into the book because that's where I need to live. We can go to meetings and people will say you're a big book thumper and all those things, but I know for me, this is my guide for living.
Yes.
And when I got away from that, that's what happens. And as I was saying, I was getting away from things. So I read this probably 5 days in a row and never saw this paragraph. I swear there's somebody in AA that goes around in the middle of the night and will put things in people's books.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
All over the world so that they can see exactly what they need when they get it. But this is the paragraph right in the middle of page 85. And this describes me to a T. It is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah, it comes right out of the 10-step promises, right?
When I read that on day number 6, I started to cry. I'm looking
holy
around.
shit.
I'm like, where did this come from? Who reprinted my book? Is this a 5th edition now?
Yeah.
Is this, plain language? Did somebody put this in the middle of the night?
When you really need it, it's always been there. But when you really need something, boy,
your eyes are open.
Yes.
Right. And those eyes were open big
that
time.
openness, yeah.
So I think this is the thing that strikes me the most is I have heard multiple stories of, especially, the old timers, we call them, that do go out and, quite often they don't come back.
Right.
I mean, I've heard some stories. My sponsor's sponsor didn't come back, and I mean, really didn't come back. And so what was really neat in this case, with Dave's case, is he came back, and he really came back, right? And he's been very forthright in the fact that he needs to go through the big book. He needs to be talking with people, and that is what's coming out of you that you knew all along. And it's just kind of been renewed, thank God.
All right, well, what Dave just read, when it says contingent upon,
right,
when those contingencies are ignored, then the outcome is inevitable.
Action.
It may take a week, it may take 6 months, but inevitably, our old behavior and our old way of thinking is going to return.
Because it's a subtle foe. And
yes.
They always say in the rooms.
And if you a lot of people talk about, and I do too, like alcohol is a person that's always in there.
And it's always doing push-ups out in the parking lot, right?
John Barleycorn.
Yep.
But if you think of it that way, it is okay. So you got to resign to the fact that he's always going to live in my head, in the back of my head. He's going to be extremely quiet, and he's going to wait until I feel successful and I start putting stuff in front of those contingencies. and he's cunning, baffling, and powerful, but also very patient.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not going to rear his head till he knows he can strike.
That's right.
And so you get to that point, and you start blowing shit off. And people that go out after long-term sobriety always have the same story. I got away from.
And that was Bill
sponsors,
That was Bill
blah,
Wilson's
blah, blah.
concern.
It's those contingencies they get away from. Maintaining sobriety. And alcohol's right there, and that was your time, and alcohol saw it that sliver of opportunity that alcoholism was like, let's get them.
Absolutely.
And the only thing that stands between you and that,
it's my higher power.
Higher power, man.
And fortunately, and I've heard many times in meetings, when you're having trouble with a step, go back to the previous step.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I went through everything, and I realized I had to go all the way back to step 3 in my surrender. Because my things that all of a sudden I was doing pulled me further and further away from that surrender to my higher power.
Yeah.
So that's when I said, okay, scrap the 3rd step. Let's go all the way back. We're starting at the very beginning of the book again. This will be my 4th time through it. So I'm not new to it. But it's funny, as I'm going through it now, having just had the experience I had, new things are being underlined. New things are being highlighted.
Yeah. It's a whole new book.
And with going through with a different person guiding me through the book. Mm-hmm. The importance is having somebody know what the book is about to take you through it.
Yeah,
Not just, if I were to read it on my own, it's not going to do me any good. Even though I've been through it, I've taken people through it, I cannot sponsor myself.
Yep.
A thing that in looking at your situation is that we if we're fortunate, we develop an inner dialogue that tells us to drink is to die. And when we get to that point, if we don't have that, we're going to say, well, I could probably have a couple drinks and then and just come back and raise my hand and say I'm coming back. I'll do that. But if we really truly believe the truth, which is for us to drink is to die,
it's an absolute.
It's an absolute. We have to smash the idea that we can never drink safely again. So if and people do go out and drink, my opinion is that the people that have long-term sobriety that go out and drink, that they have to develop such a sense of denial about the reality of their disease that they're okay with doing that.
Yeah.
Because if you go into it and say, you know what, I'm going to drink, it's probably going to kill me. I might not make it. If you start loading all those things in, I might not make it back. I'm going to be fucking miserable. I'm going to pick up where I left off. Nobody's going to drink. But if you delude yourself into saying, I haven't drank in 12 years.
And I'll start tomorrow.
So I have a couple
I'll start
glasses.
tomorrow.
If things get shitty, I'll go back to, hey, it's that simple. But it's not, because a lot of people do not make it back.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, things can get so much uglier, You can always go lower, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So everything's perfect now, right?
Oh, no. Gee, that is,
I wonder why I said that.
Boy, that is such a, that's a loaded statement there, isn't it?
Oh, gosh.
So this morning, as a matter of fact, I had to text Brett and I say, I think I owe some amends to a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do tell. If you want to.
Yes.
Yeah, we aren't here to pick on you, but these are the realities, right?
But here's the thing. If we don't share our stories,
right.
I don't care if you've got a month of sobriety or 12 years or 50 years. If we don't do what we're supposed to do,
right,
we don't, for me, it will not end well. And I will drink again.
Mm-hmm.
I've pretty darn close proved that to myself.
Yep.
This morning I'm in a meeting. I don't know what happened. I may have misheard what the topic was, or I heard what I can't tell you the particulars of it, because looking back on it now, trying to figure out what happened, and I gave what I thought was when I was called on, I gave what I thought was the appropriate response. I heard, because it was never clarified by anybody, I heard the person asking kind of for relationship advice. And I simply said, I'm not here for relationship advice. I'm here to help you with alcohol. I was taught by a sponsor, I can't tell you take a job. I can't tell you to leave a job. I can't tell you to date somebody. I can't tell you to break up with somebody. I can't tell you to do any of that stuff. All I can do is tell you to pray over it.
And I'll be honest with this. A lot of us that are really heavy into the big book and, AA and have really done the research, and sometimes those rooms can be challenging. And I got caught up in this too, because as I was getting more and more knowledge, we'll say that, right? Knowledge of AA, I became a little, I was hearing some misunderstandings in there. I was hearing some bullshit. I was hearing things that were completely wrong. And so all of a sudden I was like, well, I'm going to tell them how it should be, right? And so because I want to preserve AA. Well, is that really my role, right? But I can totally sympathize with this, and I had to actually sit down with somebody that I knew had the knowledge, but also was telling me, if you're going to go in there and look for that crap, that's all you're going to see. Yeah. And if you go in there and you're looking for the good that still exists, that's what you're going to see, right? And so, I can feel on this.
It's been my experience that if you have a good chairperson, they're going to take whatever they're given and they're going to say, so I guess the topic is. So if somebody really says, boy, I got this is my situation in a relationship with this person and that person, blah, 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 I don't know what to do. So they're going to say, okay, so the topic is pray for wisdom or whatever. They're going to clarify that. And sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But my other take on that is I can do that myself. So without criticizing the topic, I can make it my own topic. I don't even have to talk about what they're talking about.
Right.
So there are other ways to go about it.
But I get it.
Right.
And you know what?
Same.
Maybe this is a learning experience for you.
It is, because some other things happened in that meeting, and I did not display the AA that I should. I lost my cool. I started screaming in the meeting and left.
Yeah.
Halfway through.
That's never good.
He made a statement.
That is never
Let
good.
me show you.
Like, you know what? The leaving part is okay.
Fuck you guys.
I've been
I'm
to
outta
meetings.
here.
I've been to meetings that have been like off the hook.
Right.
You can leave. You can leave. But
That-
to freak out on people, that's
That
that's
would have
bad
been the
for
better
you.
choice.
That's bad for you.
Right, that would have been the
you
better
know?
choice.
Yeah.
So one amends has been made so far, and I
Awesome.
need to go back in and talk to the group, and I fully know that I was in the wrong of how I handled the situation.
Yeah. But we're human. We're human.
And boy, what a learning experience it can be. You're like, you know what? I never want to do that again because I never want to feel like this again.
Yeah, and this time you had a head full of anger with a head full of AA, right? Or a body full of anger with a head full of AA, and that came into conflict again.
Yeah,
So,
and you know what? You will see this, what happened with you today. You'll see it in meetings all the
course.
time. I remember there was one recently where it involved people bringing dogs to meetings, and it just got like really kind of. It got
that
like
dog was very disruptive. But anyway.
but it just got so awkward.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so I guess we really need a solution. Can we find a kind way to get to the solution?
Yeah.
And it wasn't handled that poorly.
Right.
But it's just like, this shit happens.
It does happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
You
None
know?
of us are perfect, right?
Yeah, and there's a very recent thing where somebody threatened somebody else at a meeting.
Right.
And that had to be handled. So it's like, okay, it has to be handled. How are we going to it's funny because I remember teaching my kids this lesson that I learned in AA. I was
love
driving them
this, by the way.
somewhere.
I know what he's saying.
And they were shit-talking people. And I said, you have to ask yourself this question about something before you spread it. A, is it true? B, does it need to be said? C, does it need to be said by me? I said, in most cases, it's going to fail one of those litmus tests. And you're going to keep your fucking mouth shut. And you're going to have a lot more serenity in your life as a result of that.
Right. Like Dick says, Dick C. If I react, I pay.
Yeah. And so, you see that meeting sometimes, you're like, boy, everybody would have been a lot better off if you felt it, but you didn't react. And maybe that was the case with you.
All I needed to do was just get up and leave at that moment. I did not need
I've seen
to
people do
open
that
my
too.
mouth.
Yeah.
Life would have been a lot easier. And then all I would have had to do was get a text message, hey, are you okay, from somebody, and say, Yep, I'm perfectly fine.
I told him
and just
my
leave
advice
it at
was
that.
you should have put your hands on the back of your pants and started running out, because that would have been it. Everybody would have thought you had to take a,
Oh God, I gotta go.
and then nobody would have known.
You know what? I'm going to kick myself out of this meeting.
That's right.
But yeah, we're not only are we flawed human beings, but we're alcoholics and at different stages of wellness. And there's a lot of sickness in the rooms, there is.
Yeah.
So it's like a couple things. Rule 62, which we talked about, which is don't take yourself so seriously. Another thing is that, I am not the judge and jury in AA. I'm very lucky I can judge and jury myself at best, and it's not going to probably be good either. But it's tough to exist in that environment and not react sometimes. It is.
But is this also a great moment to realize, maybe there's something deep within me that I'm still struggling with, right? And there's a reason for those reactions.
Absolutely.
If we were to really sit and reflect, and I know you have, which I think is amazing, what you've shown since this happened this morning. But it does really open our eyes. What are we in conflict with for real, right? And so, it's a good eye-opening experience to be human sometimes, if we know what we're looking for.
It's that whole, the thing that people hate hearing is at times like that are live and let live. I am live and letting live, but
I just gave Mark the finger.
But this needs to be said. This needs to be said. It's that whole self-righteous shit that we do, right?
Yeah. Right.
And it's all ego-based.
But it does, just like we do with AA, working with people, working with sponsees and doing that. That has a ripple effect, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the one we're aiming for. But we also realize that when we have these reactions, there's also a ripple effect there, right? And so we certainly don't want to be the cause of that tsunami, right? Yeah. So, it's pretty cool. So you've made an amends, right?
Made one so far.
Yeah, you've done step 10, right? Yeah. You took a look at yourself, and
I know who else needs the amends too.
The fact that you're sharing this on a podcast speaks well too. It's like I see what's going on. This is kind of the thing we do. We do become students of ourselves. We turn around and we look at ourselves and our behavior, and we say, okay, you know what? I did that. That's who I am. But here's what I got to do going forward. I got to, realize this. I got to check myself here. I've got to take my own inventory. I've got to talk to my inventory about a sponsor who's going to give me some good feedback. Here's the behaviors I got to change. That's how we grow to live these serene lives, or more serene anyway.
Yeah, and like you said, that humility to share that.
Yes,
right?
Huge.
To bring you down to that level that I fucked up. And then to share that with people, so when they do, they know there's a way out of that.
So not only did you fuck up by almost drinking, and you fucked up by doing that at that meeting.
What's next, Dave?
Things come in threes, right?
You know what? I fucking applaud you.
I mean, seriously.
Because you're doing the right thing about it. This is the program in action, right here. This is the program in action. Hey, the program's great if you stay sober and you don't do anything, wrong or stupid or make mistakes. That's great. But this is how the program works in action. It's great to see that you did this, you felt this, you applied the steps to it, you talk about it to your sponsor, you talk about it to you talk about it on a podcast.
I just realized that, when I speak in speaker meetings and stuff, that I needed to add some more stuff to my story because it was getting old after 12 years.
Yeah.
So I needed to make a couple mistakes so I think I'll
conjure up some more stuff.
So I can fill that full hour now.
Just so people would like my story even more.
And all you had to do was be yourself.
But as somebody sitting here with just over 3.5 years sobriety, sitting in here with somebody with just over 12 years, somebody with 35 years, that gives me a lot of hope that when I do have those moments of humanness, that I can get through it and rise above that, right? And still have a good impact, right? Based on those things that I did. And
right.
That's so cool for somebody like me to see.
And also, I can say that what happened with you today happens to everyone at various parts along their sobriety journey. It just does. Mm-hmm. It's like you learn more about yourself. And, for me, the last time I got a lesson like you, that was pretty hard was I am not an angry person. I am not a rageful person.
He yelled at me so
But
bad.
occasionally, something just really enrages me, and it happened to me a couple of years ago, and I went fucking crazy. And I literally had a 3-day hangover from it.
Right.
And I could feel the toxicity in my veins.
Yeah.
And I thought, why did I do that to myself? Why didn't I just hang up the phone? You know, it is because of my ego. My ego got punched in the face. And boy, I reacted. And I swung back 10 times hard. And what I should have done upon reflection was hang up the phone. Or just say, you know what? We definitely disagree about this. And I don't care what you think.
And
just
that's
hang up the
okay.
phone. Yeah, that would have been great.
Right.
But no. I wanted to experience that chaotic, burning feeling of just absolute blind rage.
And I want to be right.
Yeah, and not only do I want to be, I am.
Yeah. Right.
And
I'm gonna tell you
know what?
that I'm right.
You know what? When my ego got dinged that day, that ego hurt, I'm going to make your ego hurt 10 times worse for doing that to me. I'm going to fucking get you back, and that's going to make me feel better.
Wow.
It made
I
me
can
feel
feel it
worse.
now.
It made me feel worse.
Scaring me.
You know? It made me feel worse.
Yeah.
It made me think less of myself that I
Right.
did that. And I started to need to do the internal repair work.
That we have.
And then learn that lesson and say, God, that was... What I did was not only not cool to the outside world, but it was really not cool to me
Yeah.
to do to myself and my higher power, you know? So...
Wow.
If we're lucky, we do what happened with you.
And,
That's right.
and that is not the example I want to live
Right.
as someone in AA. That is not the person I want to be seen as.
Yeah, I want to hold myself to a higher standard
Correct.
than that. Right? That was the old... In fact, the old drunk you and the old drunk me would have blown that off and tell everybody, you know what I did yesterday? So-and-so called me with some bullshit thing, and I fucking let him have it.
In hopes they'll agree with us, right?
Yeah, and if they don't, then they're the asshole.
If we do
Right.
that in the room, somebody's going to say,
And if they do, we don't want to hang out with them.
And then we're
because that's
pissed at
probably
them.
not good for us.
Yeah, then we're pissed at them. Oh, God. Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it is a great example for people like me and our listeners and everybody else to see working.
And me.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a listener, too.
No, but I'm saying, like, with time, that doesn't change anything.
No.
It just doesn't. It's truly one day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So-
we all meet on the level. You know, we're all just alcoholics, no matter how much time you have, right?
Yes, let's circumscribe our passions and keep all of it. Anyway, keep all of it within due bounds.
Indeed.
Yes, that's an inside joke. Sorry.
Yes.
Anyways, boy, Dave, thank you, and thanks for reaching out. That means a lot to see somebody doing that,
Right.
and to reach out to all those people that we are all here for each other.
Right.
And
let's-
what a gift.
Yeah, and let's also say, we don't need you to do anything like that again to get back on the show.
No.
That's correct. That's correct. Next time it's going to be Reeves to
Can
the
I,
back
can I
of the
come in and go,
knees.
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how awesome my life is.
Today all he's going to talk about is his successes.
That's right.
But you know what's weird is, like, what happened with you today was a success.
It sure is how
The
it
fact
was.
that it happened is not great, but the way it's being handled is a success. And it's a
100%.
reflection on your program. So
Yep.
that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so until next time on the Glum Lot Podcast, I'm Mark.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Dave.
As we wrap up another episode of the Glum Lot Podcast, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who tuned in today. Navigating the path to recovery from alcohol and other substances is a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and self-discovery. Remember, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but we're here to provide a safe space for open conversations about the complexities of recovery. Your stories, courage, and resilience inspire us and our listeners alike. If you or someone you know is on the transformative journey, know that you're not alone. Join us next time as we continue to explore the diverse facets of recovery. Until then, stay strong, stay connected, and remember that each day is a step towards a brighter, sober tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the Glum Lot community.